Hi, my name is Jolyon Hennings from Boxbear Evolving Media. At Boxbear, we specialise alongside animation and film in making content for AR, MR and VR. The reason for today's video is because we've just taken delivery of the Meta Quest 3. So we thought it'd be a good opportunity to have a look at all the headsets that are available on the market at the moment for enterprise solutions. Now, if you've come to this thinking that this is going to be about consumer products, well, that's very easy. Go buy a Quest 3, because none of the others really do anything for the consumer. So, let's get it out of the box, see what it looks like. First of all, you can see the box is square, whereas for the Quest 2, it was an oblong box. Get rid of the sleeve. So we can see that it sits within the box very neatly. It's smaller immediately, you can see that compared to the Quest 2. And the handsets now don't have the bumpers around for the spatial piece. So if I just compare that, we can see straight up that although the actual handsets are of similar size, they no longer have the bumpers that we have on the Quest 2s. And the headset itself, I think they say it's about 40% smaller, and I guess that's about right. I would say that it's noticeably heavier. And interestingly, they've actually done away with one of the great innovations that they had with the Pro, which was putting the battery at the back, which was a direct copy of the Pico. This makes it much more comfortable because it balances the weight across your face. So it's a shame that they actually haven't done that with the Quest 3. The headband is very similar to the Quest 2. I mean, there's some straps at the back, but apart from that, it's the same thing. That's also a shame because actually the Quest 1 had a really nice headset and it sat really nicely on your head. We find that if you're wearing these for any length of time, they can sag. You have to tighten them up to keep them on. So what we have at the front, we've got the sensor cameras, which obviously sense the 6 degree of movements, but we also now have our pass-through cameras. Now on the Pro, they're also there, a little bit more hidden. So I guess this is the kind of consumer model of the Pro. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to take a look at the Quest 3, go have a little play with it in the real world, and then I'll come back and we can compare it to the other mixed reality headsets that are currently on the market and find out which is best for enterprise. Okay, I've had a chance to have a look at the Quest 3 now. And I guess the first thing we need to do is just clear some of the other headsets off the table. Now, the Quest 2 has obviously now been superseded, so that's relatively easy that we can get rid of that one and no longer bring that into the comparison. The other one probably to get rid of is the Pro. Now, we took delivery of the Pro because we were quite excited to see what it was capable of. I have to say, it was very disappointing. Even just when it comes to design. So it comes with this cover. I don't know why, but it comes with this cover. Obviously, I assume it's to protect it whilst you're not using it, which is, I guess, a nice idea. Apart from if the cover's on, it can't charge on the dock. So it's completely pointless. Whoever designed this whole setup, quite frankly, should be fired. The product itself, the pass-through is not good. Yes, it's colour, but there's an awful lot of tracers. It can't deal with any bright lights or flickering of screens or anything like that. We have some sort of Tetris thing to charge it. The first time we did this, trying to get the handsets back on took me about, even now, took quite a few attempts to actually realise how they go back on there. And as soon as you knock it on your desk, they stop charging. So you then go to use it and it wouldn't work. So quite frankly, the Pro was a very expensive paperweight. So shame. So we can discard the Pro, which leaves us really with the 5 headsets we've got. So let's just quickly introduce you to the 5 headsets. We've got the HoloLens 2, which is now actually, well, it's pretty old really. It came out in 2019. And we can have a little chat about that in a minute. We've got the Pico 4, which is the enterprise version of the Pico 4. We then have the Magic Leap, which we've had a lot of experience with using. We've got the new Oculus 3, obviously. And then we have the HTC Vive, which we've been playing with as well recently. So having a quick look at these, I think the other one we can probably discount is the HoloLens 2. Now the HoloLens 1 was great. We used that a lot, particularly when it came to trade shows and such like. Unfortunately, the upgrade to the 2 was well hyped, but was rather disappointing. The big problem that we had with the 2, first off, is the actual software. So the HoloLens 2 really was designed from the outset to be used by a single individual. So you had to log in every time you put it on your head. Now, as an enterprise solution, that's absolutely useless. As soon as you pass it to someone else to use, they need to log in, they need to go through the whole setup procedure, which it doesn't take long, it takes a minute or so, but that obviously stops that being used within a trade show or within an office environment. The other big issue with it was the actual lenses. Microsoft kept saying they were going to fix it. How they were going to fix the laws of physics using software, I have no idea, but they seem to think they could. The simple fact is that they've reached the physical maximum size for a LED lens to be in front of your eye, and you get a huge amount of rainbow effect. So any color that you put in there is different depending on how you look at it. It also means that you crop the image. So although they claimed this to be a much wider field of view, and it may be on paper, in real life usage it isn't. So I'm going to put that one to one side as well. So that really now leaves us with the 4 headsets that are currently on the market. Now only one of these headsets is truly mixed reality, and that is the Magic Leap 2, the ML2. All the rest use pass-through. So that to one side, we now have our 4 headsets left, so let's have a look at them. Obviously I can't really show you the pass-through, but what I would say is that the Quest 3 is considerably better than the Pro. So that's brilliant. It's taken a step in the right direction, and certainly the pass-through on this is a lot better than the Pro. However, I wouldn't say it's the best pass-through here. It's probably comparable to the HTC Vive. You still get some traces. Feels like you've taken some mushrooms or acid or something. So it's all a bit tracery. So if you like that kind of thing, you might enjoy it. But in truth, the best pass-through here is the Pico 4. Much clearer, much less effects, certainly when you're looking at bright lights or screens and strobing and that sort of thing, so much better. But in truth, hand on heart, you can't really use these as mixed reality headsets. Simply over time, and we're talking a relatively small amount of time, 10, 15, 20 minutes, you're going to get very tired eyes if you're using these as mixed reality. In truth, the only mixed reality headset here is the Magic Leap. So now what we're going to do is have a look at wearability, comfortability, if that's a word, and form, for want of a better word. So, as I've already said, the Quest 3 is very similar to the Quest 2. The band does split, which I guess helps a little bit towards the back of the head. But wearability-wise, it's actually pretty good. The weight is actually kept off your face by the top band. There's very little leakage of light, which is brilliant. There's a little bit if you look down to your nose, which is actually quite nice because then you can look at your phone. But actually, the light on there is really quite good. I have cranked it on quite tight to take the weight off the front of my face, and I guess that if I was wearing this for any length of time, I'd really probably want to loosen it off a bit. But yeah, it's overall, it's not bad. The Pico 4, the enterprise solution, which is what this is, it does have some guards to try and help with light, but I find that I get quite a lot of light coming in at the sides with it. Now, it's not so bad once it's on because obviously you can get the brightness of the screen, but I do find that that's a bit of a problem. You can't see underneath the nose because it's got that little flange to stop that. The big benefit of the Pico is that it has got the CPU and the battery at the back, which obviously takes all the weight off the front of the unit and makes it much more comfortable to wear. So actually the Pico, I would say, probably wins on comfort, but does have a little bit of light leakage. If you look at the HTC, again, it has really good coverage, actually. There's very, very little light leakage. Some of this is going to be dependent on the shape of your face, I know, so it's probably going to depend a little bit. There is a little bit down from the sides. It has the same thing of the weight at the back, so actually it's very light. It doesn't have a head strap, same as the Pico 4. One of the big advantages of the HTC Vive is that it actually has, I don't know if we can get it on the camera above, it actually has lenses built in. So what you can actually do is if you're short or long-sighted, you can actually dial them in to your prescription, which is a really nice feature because it's something that all of the other glasses, all the other HMDs, don't really take into account, which is people wear glasses. And those glasses aren't going to be, one specifically designed for their head-mounted displays. So it is a problem with all the others. Now, Magic Leap, they've overcome that by actually getting some prescription lenses, so you can actually get replacement lenses that can go in there. They're quite hard to get hold of and they're not cheap, but you can do that. And in fact, that's what we have when we're on stand. We have a whole set of them and we can bring them in and out. In truth, in actual usage on a trade stand, and we've used these extensively over this year, with 1,000 odd people going through the headsets, we've actually found that not to be a problem. People take the glasses off, and I guess it's because we're dealing with things within a kind of 2 meter range. They've actually almost to a person found it absolutely fine to use without glasses. But certainly when we come to the VR sets, you do then need to probably start thinking about how you're going to wear them with glasses. The Magic Leap is, I would say, the most comfortable of all of the headsets because they've actually separated the battery and put it out on a belt clip. That's the battery and the CPU are both on there, which is great. So actually the headset itself is really very, very light. It's very easy to put on and off because it just springs on. And all in all, I'd say the Magic Leap is by far and away the most comfortable. Whilst we're on batteries, I think that's probably something that's worth just settling on. The battery life of the Magic Leap, unfortunately, is not great when using when you're actually in use. So when we have our apps on here, it only actually lasts for about 45 minutes, maybe an hour, if we're lucky. The HTC Vive really wins out there because it's the only one of all of these that has a removable battery. It comes off really easily, just plugs off the back like so, and it plugs in on the side. So that has a removable battery. That's just brilliant. And why the others aren't doing that, I don't know. It's hot swap as well, so you can actually do it whilst the headset's on. It'll just pause, swap out the battery and carry on, which is really useful for anyone that's using it for an enterprise solution. I would suggest that none of these actually manage to stay alive for the amount of time that they're told in all of the paperwork that they should stay alive for. The HTC Vive, I think that was a huge oversight when they designed it, that they didn't make the battery swappable. It'll be interesting because there's some laws coming in with the EU that would suggest that they need to be. One of the other things to have a look at is how these are controlled, and that's obviously with the hand controllers. Now, all of them have hand controllers. The Magic Leap just has the one hand controller. All the others have your traditional, effectively, and if you've played with any of these things before, you'll know they're just like a PlayStation controller just broken in half. So you've got your joysticks, your triggers, and your buttons. They're all very similar in form across them with the two triggers, palm trigger and thumb trigger. I would say that in truth, they all actually have hand recognition. Apart from the Magic Leap at the moment, we're told it's in development, we're told that it's coming on onto the headset over the next sort of few months. So at the moment, you do still need to use the hand controller, and even with, because the hand tracking is there, even with the hand tracking, you still need to use the controller to control the main menu, which is a little bit annoying. so you still need that. With the others, you can actually do away pretty well with the controllers. So actually they're all can measure your hands. Now on that, we've had a play with all of them. We would actually say that the Pico 4 is probably got the best hand tracking of all of the controllers out of all the headsets. These two are very comparable, very similar when it comes to hand tracking. It's not much in it, but we would say that the Pico is probably got the edge. So that's form. Now, if we start to have a look at some of the hardware, as it were, the actual guts of them, effectively we have two different types of chipset running here. In all of the, what we'd say is virtual reality headsets really, are basically mobile phones. So we're looking at Snapdragon XR2s. The newest one actually has the Generation 2 version of the XR2, which is a little bit better at graphics and is a little better with power. So certainly explains why the graphics are really quite good on this. The Magic Leap actually has an AMD chip, an AMD Zen 2 chip, which is also a PC chip. And that probably explains why it's so capable in the first instance, but also why the battery life is shorter, and actually the fan noise, which is actually a thing with the Magic Leap 2, where it isn't a thing on the others. So RAM wise, we've got 8 gig and 8 gig in both of the Pico and the Oculus, 12 gig in the Vive and 16 in the Magic Leap. So the Magic Leap wins out on the RAM side, which obviously helps it with its processing as well. Then we've got screen resolution. So the screen resolution is pretty well different across the board. So if we start over here with the Vive, we have a screen resolution of 3840 by 1920 per eye. So actually we're looking at 4K per eye here. So that's very comparable to what will be coming out according to the press on the Apple. So that's a true, will effectively give you an 8K resolution, 4K per eye. The Quest actually is 2K per eye, so they then say that's a 4K resolution, but that's 2K per eye. 2064 by 2208, so yeah, pretty square. So that's quite nice. Within the Magic Leap, we're then looking at 1440 by 1760. So I guess that's when you need to start looking at this being more sort of HD versus 4K, would be where that kind of sit. We've not really noticed any big problems with that because it is a truly pass-through. So you're looking at the central image. And then the Pico is 2160 by 2160. So that's actually a square chip. So that's 4K across the two eyes. So certainly the Quest 3 and the Pico are quite comparable. The Pico, depending if you're looking at height compared to width, is better or smaller, but really and truly we're looking at 4K and 4K. And then we're looking at 8K for the Vive and HD really for the Magic Leap. So let's have a look at software, which obviously from an enterprise solution is really important, is how accessible is all this lovely hardware. It's one of the things that obviously concerns us most with the Apple when it comes out, because Apple are notoriously locked down with their hardware, so you can't really get in and have a play, not without sharing all of your intellectual property with what is a billion-dollar business, a multi-billion-dollar business. And if we look across the board here, it's not dissimilar when we come to Meta. In order to use Meta, you have to have a development account with Facebook, Meta. In order to use the product, you can set up multiple headsets on that, but we've got one of our clients has bought over 100 headsets to do training in the US, and they're getting no special privilege from Meta. So news just in, Meta for Business. So actually skip to the end for the conclusions to hear how that's going to influence our review. The HTC Vive on paper, and certainly from what we've done in this review so far, should be a clear winner when it comes to virtual reality. The removable battery is absolutely great. The eyes, obviously with 8K, the lenses, the hand tracking, brilliant. Unfortunately, the SDK, well, the support documents that come with it are still dealing with Unity 2019, and we're currently on 2022. So actually the support documents are nigh on useless. All of the work that we've tried to do on it, particularly when we're screen sharing, so we do a whole lot of work on the PCs when we're building all of our software, and we can then test them on the headsets. You do that on all the others just by plugging in the USB cable and testing it. We can't get that to work on the Vive, despite Vive having helped us. We've got quite good relationship with them. Unfortunately, we just can't get it to work. So at the moment, the SDK and the software when it comes to the Vive, unfortunately, is unusable. So that brings us on to the Pico and the Magic Leap. These are brilliant, quite frankly. Pico are very keen on it being an enterprise solution. They're open source. We can basically set it up however we like. Really great product. The Magic Leap is the same, really. With both these products, what they're doing is they're focusing on the hardware and they're letting us do the software. And I think that's how it should be. Personally, I think it should be across the board. I think the idea that we have hardware companies that also own their own stores and lock down their hardware is anti-competitive, it's anti-entrepreneurial, and it's just bad business. So that is a call out to Apple. It's certainly a call out to Meta as well. Just let us have the hardware so we can actually build some really good software and really get these into the hands of consumers and into the business market. So we should also talk about pricing. Although in truth, when it comes to an enterprise solution, it's really about the right product for the job. These are pass-through costs, and most of your clients should take your lead on which is the best piece of hardware for them to use. But it's important to keep an eye on budgets. So the Quest 3, this is the 128 gig version, is £480 for $7,999 in British pounds. It's the 128 gig. It's probably worth covering that off whilst we're at it. In truth, you can get a bigger one at 512, but we don't have a problem with memory on any of these products. Again, it's because it's enterprise, so we're obviously putting software on it. It's the only software that's running on it, and then we'll take it off and replace it with another piece of software. It's not like you're loading it with loads and loads and loads of games or photos or whatever else you might be putting on a consumer product. So size of memory wise, we're happy with all of these. The Magic Leap does have the biggest at 256, but it's also the most expensive here at £2,300, which is quite punchy, really, when we compare it to the rest of them. The HTC Vive, £1,300, so about £1,000 cheaper than the Magic Leap. And I have to say, if we could get the software working on it, we'd really like to have a bigger and deeper play with the Vive. I think the form of it is great, as I think I've said a couple of times. Really like the product. So the Pico, and I think it's only fair that we compare the price of the consumer Pico with the consumer Quest, is actually £350 compared to the £480 for the Quest. So it's cheaper, and as I've already said, it's probably the better headset. It's got better pass-through, it's got better hand tracking, and although its chipset is not quite as new, it's only got the generation 1, it's as comfortable, if not more comfortable as well. However, as we've already said, if you are looking at a consumer headset, then this is the one to go for, simply because it's the one with the most games and the most content on it. The Pico does have some games, so you can play some things on it, but really and truly, we're talking about enterprise. So for enterprise, this is where it'd be. The enterprise version of this is actually £600. So it's not that much more than the Quest 3, and it's less than the Quest Pro was, which is really, I guess, where it's got to be pitched against. So in conclusion, we're really looking at these two headsets, but they have different use cases. For VR Team Space and VR Studio, which is obviously a virtual reality, meetings and such like, then we're moving away from the Quests towards the Pico 4. The main reason for that is actually that software piece. So hold that thought. Just had a meeting with Meta, and they're about to launch Meta for Business. Now this is the third attempt at Meta for Business. First two, really not worth it. This one sounds really quite exciting. So we're going to be able to use email addresses, business email addresses, rather than Meta accounts. We're going to be able to control them remotely. We're going to be able to control users remotely. Users will be able to use their own Meta accounts for games and have a separate login for the business. So it's really quite exciting stuff. So maybe Oculus have realized, as we have, that really it's about enterprise, not consumer, and that's where the business is. So please keep an eye on it. Let's get back to the review. Some customers can be a little bit funny with that because the Pico is owned by ByteDance and TikTok, so that's a Chinese-owned company. Now, the Pico has tried very hard to help people with that, so it actually has an ETSI-EN certification for it, which is basically a piece of security certification. It's the only headset that has that, so is one of its kind of major selling points. But as I say, some companies may still be concerned. Doesn't really bother us because we have a standalone environment. There's no real sharing of any information back to the Pico sphere, so we're quite happy with that. The other solution that we have, which is really when we're working at trade shows and trade stands and we're wanting a true mixed reality, so that's using our HoloPresenter software, the Magic Leap is really the only product out on the market that really ticks that box at the moment. It's the only true mixed reality. Everything else is passed through, which then means you're dealing with those issues that you get with a screen. We'd really like the HTC Vive to sort itself out when it comes to the software, so we can truly have a look at that one. And the Quest 3, great consumer product, not really for enterprise. Hope you found it useful. Please do like or subscribe, and please do come and have a look at our website and have a look at BoxBear. We do lots of really interesting stuff trying to make Hollywood on the small screen. So come and have a chat. Thank you.